Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're looking at a totally universal household frustration, but we're going to look at it through a completely new lens today. Think about it. Every single drain in your home shares one primary goal, right? Moving water away and moving it away fast. Because of that, it's incredibly tempting to just treat them all exactly the same when things get backed up. But let me tell you, treating all drains the same is actually a massive recipe for failure. The insights we're unpacking today, which are based on data from the plumbing experts over at Dr. Drain, reveal that your bathtub and your shower are fundamentally different ecosystems. And understanding that difference, that's the absolutely crucial key to finally fixing them for good. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's how we're going to break it all down. First up, a tale of two drains, just to get the core differences straight. Then we'll dissect the anatomy of a shower clog before swinging over to the bathtub drain difference. Once we've got the mechanics down, we're matching fixes to drain types. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with prevention and professional help so you know exactly how to maintain things and, when it's time to call in the cavalry. All right, let's get into part one, a tale of two drains. So it's time to stop looking at those metal grates in your bathroom like they're identical twins. The differences between these two fixtures, how you use them, what you're putting down them, and how they're actually built, completely define their unique plumbing issues. Which brings us to a really fascinating question. One you've probably asked yourself after pouring an entire jug of cleaner down the drain with zero results. Why do fixes only work for one drain type? This right here is the ultimate aha moment. The whole idea of a universal DIY fix is literally a plumbing myth. A solution that brilliantly clears your shower might just sit there completely useless in your bathtub. To understand why, we've got to look at what's actually happening beneath the surface. Here's the core difference we're dealing with. On one hand, we've got the shower drain. Showers are all about small, repeated rinses. They're constantly collecting hair, skin flakes, and light soap residue. But on the other hand, bathtubs deal with settling water, heavy debris, thick grime, and an entirely different, way more complex plumbing geometry. It really is the hairy, soapy world of the shower battling against the heavy, sluggish nature of the bathtub. Moving right along to part two, anatomy of a shower clog. The experts actually call this the sticky mat. I know, it sounds like some terrible wrestling move, but structurally, it's pretty fascinating. It's basically this buildup formed when hair, skin flakes, detergent, shampoo residues, soap scum, and hard water minerals all combine into one gross mess. Because showers use repeated, small, fast rinses, those materials don't get flushed very deep into the system. Instead, the soap scum and minerals create this super sticky foundation right near the top. Then, the hair easily catches on it, acting almost like rebar in concrete. And trust me, this buildup accumulates incredibly quickly. So how do you actually know if a sticky mat has taken over your pipes? Well, the symptoms are incredibly specific. You're going to notice standing water almost immediately after you turn the shower on. Or the water drains slowly at first, kind of keeping pace, but then just stops completely as that mat expands. You might also hear this really distinct gurgling sound coming from the drain line. That's just air struggling to push past that massive web of hair and soap. If you're experiencing any of these, yep, you are dealing with a classic shower clog. All right, let's pivot to part three, the bathtub drain difference. Now, what's really interesting here is just the sheer weight of what a bathtub drain has to handle. I mean, tubs endure far heavier inputs. Think about all the dense products you use in a bath. You've got thick shaving gels, heavy conditioner-rich water, maybe some bath bombs or bath oils. But more importantly, when you take a bath, the water just sits there. As that massive volume of bathwater cools down, all those heavy fats, waxes, and debris slowly settle and literally congeal directly onto the interior surfaces of your pipes. And that creates a totally different structural problem. Just contrast the two for a second. Shower clogs are essentially these quick hair plugs right near the top of the drain. Bathtub clogs, however, show up as persistent, widespread, slow drainage. It's driven by heavy mineral scale and thick residues spread out over a much larger area. Plus, bathtub plumbing sometimes uses completely different slopes and trap configurations just to accommodate the actual shape of the tub. What that means is partial blockages take way longer to clear because the sludge is spread out everywhere, not just clumped up in one easy-to-reach spot. This brings us to part four, matching fixes to drain types. Okay, now that we understand the mechanics, we can confidently jump into the solutions. Just remember our golden rule here. We absolutely must pair the right tool with the correct drain. For the shower, our whole goal is breaking down that sticky mat. So here is the exact low-risk process you want to follow. Step 1, start right at the top. Pop off the strainer and clean out the visible hair. Definitely use gloves and a drain tool for this. Step 2, attack the binder. Get a nylon brush and let the drain soak in a cleaner specifically designed for soap scum. This loosens up that gross film so it can be cleared away with hot water. And step 3, if it's still blocked, grab a standard household drain snake. Physically pulling that mat out is far, far more reliable than just pouring chemicals down there over and over. Now, let's look at how this whole approach completely changes when we tackle the bathtub. Bathtubs require a much heavier duty approach. Step 1 is exactly the same, remove any visible debris from the top. But step 2 relies heavily on hot water flushes. Because tub clogs involve thick, congealed grooming residues, running very hot water can really help melt and push that sludge along. Step 3 is where the real divergence happens. If the drainage is still sluggish, a standard little household snake probably isn't going to cut it. Because of those different trap slopes and wide scale we talked about, you often need a heavy-duty plumber's auger or a properly sized drain snake to reach way further down the line and break up that persistent grime. Now, before we get into prevention, I really need to deliver a high-stakes warning drawn directly from the plumbing experts. When you're attempting these fixes, you absolutely have to be aware of the extreme dangers of mixing chemical cleaners. Listen, if your first chemical pour didn't work, whatever you do not just pour a different brand on top of it. Mixing these products, especially anything containing acids or oxidizers, can create highly dangerous, literal, toxic chemical reactions right inside your home. And beyond the health risks, these harsh chemicals can severely damage certain pipe materials and completely eat through your plumbing seals. That turns a simple, annoying clog into a massive, extremely expensive leak. Which leads us perfectly into our final section: prevention and professional help. So, how do we avoid getting to that nightmare scenario altogether? Let's look at the universal rules of drain health. The absolutely crucial point here is stopping the debris from building into a plug in the first place. For your shower, the ultimate maintenance routine is a quick strainer clean on a regular schedule, like, say, weekly. The key prevention tactic? Simply use a good drain cover that catches small particles without sealing off the water flow. Easy. For your bathtub, the routine requires an occasional deep cleaning of the actual drain assembly itself. But the single most important prevention tactic for the tub is entirely behavioral. You need to always rinse off thick grooming products before the bathwater actually has a chance to cool down and settle into your pipes. You've got to keep that water moving. But look, sometimes, despite your absolute best efforts, things just escalate. Dr. Drain outlines some very specific red flags, indicating you've officially moved past a simple single-trap problem into something much more serious. You really need to call a licensed plumber if you see any of the following. First, if both fixtures in the same bathroom are draining poorly at the exact same time. Second, if clogs just keep recurring shortly after you've thoroughly cleared them. Third, if you're hearing persistent gurgling or smelling foul odors. Or finally, if the slow drainage is just getting progressively worse over time. These are all huge warning signs that repeated DIY trial and error is only going to cause more damage to your home. Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought to consider the next time you step into your bathroom. Based on everything we've looked at today in this explainer, from those sticky mats to the heavy mineral scale, you have to ask yourself, are your drains just slow, or is the main plumbing line trying to tell you something? Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope this deep dive into the science of your plumbing helps you keep everything flowing perfectly.